Chapter 16, The Powerless Cycle. Earth Person. Boy, do I feel miserable. I went to a party last night, and I ate and drank too much. You've done this before, haven't you? Yeah, sometimes I just can't help myself. I've got no willpower. You really sound helpless. When it comes to overindulging, I am, at least at parties, but I'll get over it. I'll just take it easy today. Do you like the feeling? What feeling? The feeling of helplessness. The feeling you described as having no willpower. I don't really mind it. It's the morning after I don't like. Do you really like not having any willpower? Well, when you put it that way, no, but it usually doesn't last for long. Well, of course not. You get rid of it by stuffing your mouth with food and drink, and feeling bad the next morning. Yeah, I guess I do, but it goes away. It doesn't bother me much. Then why do you look so bad? What do you mean? Do I really look that bad? You look terrible. Well, maybe I did overdo it a bit. You overdid it a lot. Yeah, I guess so. You seem to punish yourself like this quite often. Punish myself? You certainly don't look comfortable. Oh, how long has this been going on? What, eating and drinking more than I should? Yes. Well, I've always eaten a lot. I've kind of had a weight problem since I was a kid. Drinking came later, but I don't see what's so important about it. These excesses occur when you feel powerless. They're symptoms of unfinished business in your life. Unfinished business? Yes. Things from your early life that you haven't resolved. Things that still bother you. But what's this got to do with becoming rich and happy? So long as you're still carrying around unfinished business, you can't get on with changing the rest of your life. You'll lack the power you need to gain control over your behavior. You mean unfinished business keeps me from having power? Yes. Actually, your unfinished business involves all those situations where you were forced into powerless positions against your will when you were young. What's unfinished is that you need to take back your power. But what's this got to do with eating? When you were in these powerless situations you really couldn't get out of, you frequently tried to avoid the feeling of powerlessness by turning to something you actually had power over. For you, it was eating. You could always put things into your mouth, even if you couldn't control other aspects of your life. By eating, you could start feeling powerful again. You're saying that my eating was an effort to feel powerful when I was really feeling powerless? Yes, but it never really worked. You never stopped feeling powerless for any length of time. What happened was that you programmed yourself to both feel powerless and then eat in an attempt to feel powerful. Later, you'd feel powerless all over again. You recorded the whole sequence rather than just getting rid of the powerless feeling. Wow, that's really amazing. But how does it connect up to my overeating yesterday? I know that I didn't have any willpower, that I couldn't stop myself from eating once I got started, but what else is going on? Not having any willpower is another way of saying you felt helpless or powerless. Okay, I'll buy that. But I started feeling powerless after I began eating, not before. It was my eating that I didn't have the willpower to stop. Not quite. You may not have been aware you were feeling powerless until you began eating. But if you check back, you'll find you were feeling powerless before eating too. If you hadn't been, your urgency to eat wouldn't have been so strong. You've got a point there. I really did go for the food sort of automatically. But I still don't understand all this. Do you want to stop feeling powerless? Yes, I do. Okay, then. Let's focus on your eating habits for a while. What do you feel when you're about to really stuff yourself? Feel? I feel hungry. What kind of hungry? What do you mean? What are you hungry for? Food? Affection? A certain kind of food? Rest? Relaxation? Sleep? Sex? Usually I'm hungry for sweets, candy, cake, or pie. Is it the same kind of feeling you get when you sit down for a quiet steak dinner? Oh no, it's more like a drive that I can't control. When I gorge myself on sweets, or even when I drink a six-pack of beer, I'm pretty much out of control. I barely taste what I'm swallowing. Oh? Yeah, it involves a different kind of hunger from when I just eat a regular meal. It isn't a physical stomach hunger. Can you be more precise? I get real nervous and anxious. Yeah. And sometimes I get angry. It's like I'm attacking the food when I wolf it down. I feel really good when I'm in the process of eating it. And then right afterward, I feel guilty and kind of empty, almost sad inside. Ah, gee, I've never thought about it like this before. It sure does seem like a lot's going on. It all just kind of snapped into focus when you asked me about being hungry for a steak dinner. Do you notice any feeling before your first hunger pangs? Yes. Yes, I do. Sometimes I feel lonely or bored or mildly depressed. And sometimes I feel downright blah, almost empty, as if you need filling up or energizing. Oh, yes, exactly. That's why I eat. It's as if the energizing I need or the filling up can be accomplished by filling up my stomach. And can it? Well, somewhat, but it never lasts. And I inevitably get fat. I'm very energized when I'm attacking my food, especially if I'm really anxious or angry. Sometimes it may last for a while, but afterwards I feel sort of guilty and empty again, even though my stomach may be full. Hmm. This eating thing seems to have a regular cycle with a beginning, middle, and end. I feel certain things before I eat, certain things while I'm eating, and certain things after I eat. Exactly. And this cycle is your method of dealing with your feelings of powerlessness. The powerless feelings start right at the beginning, huh? Yes. So you're saying that boredom and loneliness and depression and even feeling empty are all various forms of feeling powerless? Of course, just examine them. When you're bored, what is it you feel powerless to obtain? Something to interest me. I can't find something to interest me or something that might be exciting. And when you're lonely? Well, companionship or someone to talk to. When I'm lonely, I have no way of finding someone to talk to. And when you're depressed? Ooh, that's a tricky one. It's sort of like I just can't get any fun out of life. All right. Now, how about when you feel empty? When I feel empty, I feel that I can't get back something that's been taken away from me. It's almost like my insides have been ripped out and taken away. Can you hear the powerlessness in all these feelings? Yes, and the anger, particularly the anger and feeling empty. But how do I deal with all this? How do I stop feeling powerlessness? Allow yourself to experience all the feelings. Use them as a signal that you're in a powerless cycle. Oh, but what if I don't experience them? Are you afraid to experience them? Oh God, you should only know. If I were to really get in touch with my anxiety, I think I'd go crazy. Oh? What does go crazy mean to you? I'd lose control of myself and maybe jump out of a window or something. Anything else? Oh, or hurt somebody, maybe even kill somebody. Ooh, that doesn't sound like anxiety. It sounds like anger. It sure does. But if I'm really angry, why does it feel like anxiety? Because it's safer to feel anxiety. Safer? Safer than what? Safer than feeling angry. Why is that? When you were young, did you feel angry often? Well, sure, but I got scolded a lot whenever I had a temper tantrum. What did you learn from that experience? That anger was something to avoid. Everybody else got upset when I got angry. I'd get punished pretty bad. I learned to avoid feeling angry at all costs. And what did you begin to feel whenever an anger producing situation approached? Well, anxious, I guess. I began to feel anxious. And what happened when you felt anxious but not angry? What do you mean? What happened in the family? Oh, nothing. No one noticed. Oh, I see what you mean. I guess it was safer to feel anxious. Okay, now. What do you think you decided about feeling angry in general? I decided not to feel it. I decided to feel anxious instead. Very good. You're making great strides. Now, are you still afraid of feeling angry? Yes, I am. I think I might do something dangerous, something really bad. Like what? Well, as I said before, maybe kill somebody. Wouldn't anger bother you if you thought you might kill someone? There's a difference between feeling violent feelings and doing violent things. You don't think I do something awful? You don't have to. There's no need to connect what you feel with what you do. There are many healthy ways to express your anger. Then why am I so hung up on it? Why do I think I might kill someone? To justify your decision to avoid feeling angry. It sounds reasonable to many Earth people, but it's merely your parent justifying your early decision to avoid anger. Oh, wow. You're saying that it's all in my parent? Yes. There isn't any automatic connection between what you feel and what you do. You learned there was when you were a youngster, but it's not really so. Oh, gee, that's funny because when I think about it, I'm not even sure what I'm angry about. I'll bet it has something to do with that unfinished business you were talking about, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Can you recall any mealtime experiences that relate to anger? Oh, let's see. I can hear my mother insisting on my finishing everything on my plate. She always piled on more food than I could possibly eat, and then she'd tell me how lucky I was compared to the starving children in China or some such place. How did you feel then? Oh, angry. Damned angry. She made me eat until I was uncomfortable, and if I complained, I got yelled at. Oh? Yeah, it was like I wasn't even in charge of my own body. There I was, nailed to the chair, being constantly forced to eat things against my will. You felt sort of powerless, like there was no way you could win. But yes, exactly. So, now we know what you've been angry about. That must have felt terrible. Oh, God, that's really something. And since complaining was never an option for me, since I had no way to vent my anger, what I ended up doing was shoveling down my food and suffering in silence. You shoveled down food? Yeah, and I felt really good about it. I got even, and I felt really victorious. But I thought that was what you were resisting. I thought you didn't want to eat. Yeah, you're right. That doesn't make sense, does it? Well, it makes sense if you look at it as your final attempt to feel powerful in a powerless situation. Eating? And then feeling victorious? Yes. How did you get even and feel victorious? Or by eating. Somehow. It was sort of an I'll show you revenge type eating. Well, but it was more than just eating. What else was involved? Well, I was eating, and I didn't even look angry, but you were angry. Oh, I was livid. Then how did you become victorious? Oh, I know. I tricked her. I tricked my mother. She thought I'd given in, that she'd won. She saw me eating and didn't see my anger. That way I had the last laugh. I literally stuffed my mouth and she thought I was enjoying it. And that right there is the heart of your unfinished business. Huh? What is? Tricking people. In what way? You don't have to trick people anymore, and you don't have to trick yourself. Trick myself? What do you mean? You know. You mean I trick myself when I eat? Did you hear yourself laugh? When, just now? Yes. Sure, I thought it was pretty funny. What part of you was laughing? I guess it was my child, my natural child. Tricking yourself isn't natural. It's against your own best interests. Your natural child would not laugh at that. Your natural child would feel angry. Oh, then I guess it was my adapted child. Yeah, it really was my adapted child. It's an old tape. What was your adapted child laughing at? That I was putting something over on my mother, but your mother hasn't been making you eat for a long time now. The only part of her that's left is in your own parent. You've been putting something over on yourself all these years and laughing at yourself as you did it. Oh, God, that's really sick. Many Earth people do it. In fact, almost everyone who's overweight has some similar problem. Okay, but how do I do it? How do I actually trick myself? You become aware of feeling powerless at some level. You feel lonely or bored or depressed. And when you start trying to do something about it, something that would make you feel powerful, your parent intervenes. It says you shouldn't feel powerful. Sometimes it intervenes even before you start trying to do something. So you're caught in a bind, the same bind you were in as a youngster. And you find the same solution. You trick yourself into feeling some temporary power, a little power, by eating and feeling victorious. Although you rarely recognize it as feeling victorious at the time, you just think of it as feeling better. And it sounds so simple when you put it that way. It can be simple once you see the sequence, but we haven't finished looking at the whole sequence yet. Do you have any idea why you feel guilty and then sad after you finished eating? Yes, after all you've told me, the rest is easy. I usually feel guilty because I believe that I shouldn't try to be powerful, which is what I've just done in my own powerless way. And then I feel sad because it's a pretty terrible bind to be in. It is sad. And your final sadness returns you to your program status of feeling powerless. The cycle ends and then begins again. Ah, do you see it all? I think so. But let me review it for a moment. I want to get a handle on the whole thing. First, I feel powerless in some way, bored or something. Then I feel angry. But wait a minute. Why do I feel angry? Anger is a natural reaction to feeling powerless. It's the start of returning to feeling powerful. Oh, okay. But since my parent doesn't allow me to feel angry, which I guess is a form of power, I switch my anger to anxiety, then somehow hunger enters into it because I connect the filling up that I need emotionally and a powerless position with the filling up I can get physically by eating. Ugh, but that doesn't really make sense. Hunger isn't an emotional adapted child feeling like the rest of the feelings. Why did I include it in the sequence? It was natural for you to do so because many of your power struggles occurred at mealtime. It may not make sense logically, but it makes sense to a youngster who's grasping at any straw he can find to make himself feel better. It's the one non-logical connection I made, which created the symptom of being overweight and eating too much. Right. Okay, now let's see if I can get the rest of this straight. As I eat, my hunger disappears and turns into a form of temporary power that makes me feel victorious. This is actually the main feeling I tricked myself into feeling because my parent says I shouldn't feel powerful. But it doesn't last long. I immediately revert to feeling guilty and sad because my parent was brought into the whole thing all along and I don't see any way out of it. Superb. So the whole sequence of feelings goes like this. I feel powerless, then angry, then anxious, then hungry, then victorious, then guilty, and then sad. That's it. But now that I understand it all, what do I do about it? How do I stop the cycle? Turn off the tape that says you shouldn't feel powerful. Give yourself permission to feel powerful. But you don't understand. When I was young, that was the most sensible tape I put into my parent. You don't know how terrible things were when I got angry. Those situations don't exist now. The only times you feel powerless now are when you create the feelings or situations for yourself. I hear you're saying that, and I know it must be true, but I still feel myself resisting. That's one of your options. You can keep the whole cycle if you like, but it's an enormous drain of energy. You can choose to use your energy to feel happy and get rich, or you can choose to use your energy to engage in power struggles from your past. That's really what this is, isn't it? It's really a struggle from my past, a struggle with my mother over food, over power, not food. Meals merely provided the arena. Okay. I buy all we've said about feeling powerless when I really wolf down my food, but what about all the other times when I'm really feeling pretty powerful, but I still stuff my face? There are plenty of times when I overeat and I don't feel powerless. These are situations where you're preventing yourself from maximizing your power. You're telling yourself you shouldn't feel really powerful, just moderately powerful. It's still a power struggle. It just differs in degree. You don't leave me much choice, do you? The choice is yours. You can choose to feel very powerful, moderately powerful, or not at all powerful. If you want to get rich, you must feel very powerful. And you think I can do it, huh? Sure. If you haven't maximized your power, it's because you're using your energy inside yourself in an internal power struggle rather than outside yourself, focused on some external goals. You already have the power. The decision is how you choose to use it. Well, the reason this finally makes sense to me is that I can feel the way I tie up my energy inside myself. It seems to me that if I just stop doing that, I ought to have lots of energy left over. Good. Now that you're getting a sense of what you feel, you're already beginning to increase your power. Soon, if you keep at it, you'll be able to have anything you want. Comments. The issue in this chapter is, of course, not that you have to be thin in order to become rich and happy, but that you need to regain your personal power. The most meaningful examples of how to regain your power involve those situations where you've most clearly lost it. Some of the best illustrations involve compulsive behavior. Those moments when we lose our willpower, when one feeling of powerlessness blends into another, and then another, until we seem totally unable to gain control over what we're doing. Although many people don't see their constant battle with weight in those terms, eating is one of the most common examples of compulsive powerlessness in our society, closely followed by smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. More childhood power struggles occur at the dining table than at any other single place. The issue of consuming food provides a classic example of how someone can lose his power and demonstrates the sort of decisions he needs to make in order to regain it. The best way to learn to regain your personal power is simply to give up your compulsive behavior, whatever it may be. Can you envision feeling comfortable and satisfied when eating or drinking or spending money if you never have in the past? Can you imagine the energy you'd release and be able to use for other things? The best place to start is with some small compulsion and then build up to the bigger ones. All our feelings of powerlessness are based on early experiences when our power was somehow taken away from us, or when we, for some reason, decided to give it up. These moments usually occurred when we weren't permitted to express ourselves openly, or show we were feeling a natural child feeling of power, usually anger, frustration, or sexuality. Our decision to substitute more acceptable behavior often involves substituting more acceptable and less powerful feelings. These decisions were almost always detrimental to us. We hardly ever agreed fully with the action we took, nor enjoyed the feelings we substituted. Unable to express our real feelings, we soon convinced ourselves that the powerless, adaptive child feelings we substituted were our real feelings. They became familiar and, in a sense, comfortable. We learned to perpetuate them by stringing them together, one after the other in various sequences. Since we weren't permitted our real feelings, we really had little choice. In some cases, this process actually became circular, interrupted only by a brief moment of victory or vengeance, which was the closest we could come to the real feeling of power we weren't permitted to have. Deciding to feel powerful and breaking this cycle is one of the most useful exercises you can undertake. You may not have to recall your early experiences in as great detail as Earth Person, and you may not be able to identify the sequence of your feelings with such precision. But you will need to recognize your powerless situation and decide to take your power back. Permit yourself to feel powerful. Redecide your earlier decision.